So it is the NBA playoffs. It's the majority of our show today. And one of the things I think we need to talk about is we have been in this best player versus best team era, I feel like, for quite a while now, where we are so used because of some of the all-time greats that have played in the NBA. Magic, Bird, Michael, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, Steph, KD, that we feel like your best player should just dictate that if you have the best player or a Pantheon level guy, that means you should be going to the finals, making these really deep runs. Even someone who I'm not quite as high on, but a lot of people think are one of the best players maybe we've ever seen in Luka Doncic, that he got the Mavs to the finals last year. And I just don't think that's the way it's going to work this year. And I'm saying this with my mind, even though I'm going to have an opinion later when we go through our bracket. My heart says a little bit differently. And that's because, and I've said this a bunch, we have to separate who the all-time greats really are and everybody else. Meaning, not everybody is Michael Jordan. Not everybody is LeBron James, Kobe, Shaq, Michael, Magic. And that the best teams, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Boston Celtics, those are the teams that are actually going to make the biggest difference. Those are the teams that are going to have the most success in the playoffs. Not the best player, not just the guy who's the most dominant, etc., etc. And so, yes, while we're used to, even over the last handful of years, Jokic making his run with Denver, Giannis making his run with Milwaukee, LeBron's last run with the Lakers, those are going to become few and farther apart because we just don't have those guys anymore. And those guys can be canceled out by truly how impactful the three-point shot has become. I think Giannis and Jokic could average 30, 10, and 10. And I think they could still get 20, 33s hit on them by the Celtics or the Thunder or another one of these great teams, and it's going to totally disqualify them. Doesn't matter how great they are. You're not going to be able to outscore another team if that other team is much better. Jokic is unanimously the best player in the Western Conference. Does anyone think Denver's seriously making a big-time run, especially considering Michael Malone being fired here just a few weeks ago, or about a week and a half before the playoffs start? Is anyone expecting Giannis, who's had an amazing last couple regular seasons and an amazing last few weeks of the regular season post-Dame going out with injury? Do we expect Giannis to get Kyle Kuzma to the NBA Finals? Again, we got so spoiled because LeBron was taking all of these really just should not be their Cavs teams, and he was getting them to the finals year after year. He was getting them in these deep playoff runs. Again, Jokic carried the Nuggets a few years ago. Giannis got the Bucks there to a title. But the best teams, the Boston Celtics, who say what you want about Jason Tatum, and I know there's a bunch of conflicting opinions on, is he top 5? Is he top this? Tatum and his team, the Celtics, as long as Jaylen Brown's knee is good, they are going to walk through the Eastern Conference, maybe their only competition being the Cavaliers, who are a great team. Again, they don't have a all-time legendary superstar. They have a great team. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley. The Oklahoma City Thunder, yes, SGA is going to be an MVP, but SGA is not an all-time legendary player. But they have him, Williams, Chet. They have the best team in this playoffs. So when you're comparing them to another team like the Bucks, they're clearly a better team than the Bucks. They're clearly a better team than even what the Lakers have with Luka and LeBron. And I know Luka just got here last year doing that. I'm aware. But what really made the Mavs run last year special and what allowed them to get all the way to this point was the fact that their bigs were playing defense. Their bigs were getting more involved in the offense. The team around Luka was playing much better, not just, Luka was winning games. Yes, Luka was obviously important. Luka was scoring a bunch of points. But LeBron's out of his prime. Giannis isn't that kind of guy. Jokic, while he is an all-time great, he's not going to be able to do it for him either. The best teams are the ones right now that are set up for success. The best teams are the ones that are set up to win. You're not going to see a LeBron go 38-8 throughout the playoffs. That's good enough to get you and pull your team and drag them to the NBA Finals. You're not going to see a Michael Jordan-esque playoff run. You're not going to see Kobe and Shaq dominantly. Like, those days we're going to start to see get farther and farther apart. And you're going to see teams like the Celtics. You're going to see teams like the Thunder, what they're building in Houston, what the Cavaliers have. We're going to start seeing these teams winning titles. And that's a transition for the NBA. That's never been the case for the NBA. Let's also, as we segue here, and we're going to see this again when we do a playoff bracket. We're not acknowledging any play-in teams. And the NBA's got to do something about this. Because the one thing you don't want, I know we want more intrigue and more storylines and more competition, and that's great. And giving teams and fan bases hope because their team is the 9 seed and they're maybe just a game out of the 8 seed, and so that means they're going to be in the play-in, they're going to have a chance to go to the playoffs. We got to stop it when the disparity is as big as it is, especially in the Western Conference this year. The Mavs and the Kings are the 9-10, and they have zero chance. Look, you already have 1 to 2 teams every single playoffs, every single postseason that's just drawing dead. They have no chance to win a title, and that is generally the 7 or 8 seed. Even in these years that you want to go back and we all love to glamorize as, oh my gosh, look how competitive the West is. Look how great the West is when the 8 seed is 50 wins or close to it. The 8 seed is almost always drawing dead in both conferences to actually win the title. So why do we want to add more teams that are just drawing dead? Even if, let's say, the Kings did win the play-in and they did win, they won the whole play-in, they became the 8 seed. How quick would the Kings lose to OKC? If the Mavs were to win it, how quick do the Mavs lose to OKC? We, as sports fans, and I know the individual fan bases don't like to hear this, and trust me, I've been there. We want teams that actually have a chance. We want it to be intriguing. We want it to be competitive. We don't want sweeps. We don't want teams that are clearly outmatched. You know, this has been my thing with the Bulls the last couple of years. Why are the Bulls in the play-in? The Bulls have the kind of roster where they need to start tearing stuff down, bringing guys in, move on. Like, you're not going to be competitive. You're not winning the title. Like, let's get more interesting teams. Let's get more intriguing matchups. And when you have such a disparity between where the Grizzlies just fought the whole last second half of the season, they got off to a slow start, still got close to 50 wins. Them and the Timberwolves are going back and forth. Timberwolves get to the 6 seed. Grizzlies are still the 8. And now the Grizzlies got to play teams that aren't even 500 to make the playoffs? Like, that's not what we wanted. The NFL had this problem. And this has come from someone who, my team benefited off the NFL having a 7 seed. But it's a better storyline and it's more intriguing when you have the team that was just so close but didn't quite make the postseason. That team who was the best team to not make the playoffs is more interesting and better for the league because that's this team you get to start following the next year of, can they take that next step? We all talk about gradually in the playoffs how teams take steps. They make the playoffs, then they have a semi-deep run, then they have a really deep run, and they potentially win a title. Those same kind of steps exist before you get into the postseason. You start building a culture, then you get really close to the playoffs, then you get in the playoffs, and boom, then you take those next couple steps we just discussed. We don't need the Mavs. We don't need the Kings. We don't need these teams, the Bulls, the Heat. Like, none of these teams are serious to win a title. Most of these teams aren't even serious to win a game against the respective 1 or 2 seeds from either conference, if they go all the way up to the 7. I know the 10 seeds can't, but if the 9 seeds technically get as high as the 7, the 10 seeds only get as high as the 8. Like, this is not what the additional playoff teams, the additional excitement, the additional fan bases. This isn't what we wanted. Nobody wanted this. So, NBA, can we please get rid of the play-in? The NFL, I would also say, like, the NFL could arguably get rid of the 7 seed, but Denver just won that, so not one to quite go there, but kind of works out the same. Giving us that team that's just so close. Their fan base is almost going to get them next year. We don't need these teams in the playoffs, though. The playoffs are for teams that, even if they don't have great chances, have realistic chances of being competitive. And none of these teams in the play-ins have a chance of doing that.